Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Lots to talk about. Great to be back after having a day off, and I appreciate everybody joining us here. Welcome, Maverick family. Welcome, new viewers from wherever you may be around the world tonight. Great to have you here. We're on Trump watch again, and he has arrived in New York City. Tonight he will be staying at Trump Tower, and then tomorrow he's going to give himself up. So we'll be following that. We also have a reaction to those people trying to cross the border to migrate into the United States. It appeared as though they were trying to cross over the St. Lawrence Seaway from Canada into the U.S. to enter the U.S. illegally, and there were 8 people who died over the past few days. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Canada addressing that issue tonight. We also have for you, what else do we have? Those are the most important things, I think. Oh, yes, Chris Sky in Toronto. He has had a bit of a rally there today. So we have a little bit of footage to share with you on that front. And yeah, lots to talk about on the Donald Trump pending charges and arraignments set for tomorrow in New York City. So don't go away. I will be right back after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So Donald Trump has arrived in New York City, and I wanted to bring you a few clips from mainstream media tonight to show you how they're covering this. And there's a bit of a difference in tone between, say, Fox and CBS, and then even the Epoch Times, which is also covering this. But they're all doing this kind of thing. I mean, it's like it's play by play, blow by blow, right?
As it approaches the tarmac LaGuardia Airport, former President Donald
earlier
Trump,
today.
in an unprecedented move, continues to be indicted. Last Thursday, we heard the news come out of the Manhattan grand jury. He is traveling to New York City via his own personal private plane. He will spend the night at Trump Tower on Monday into Tuesday, and then surrender to prosecutors on Tuesday in this arraignment, in this booking that will have you fully covered here on Live Now from Fox. But President Trump slowly coming down to the tarmac at LaGuardia Airport to face these potential charges against him relating to hush money payments and the hush money probe. Of course, following it very closely on Live Now. A very monumental moment here. The unprecedented word will be thrown out quite a bit. Of course, there's also talk from New York officials about security and protocols in place around there. We heard from the mayor, Eric Adams, the police commissioner in New York, about making sure it is safe. If protesters want to come out, they can do so, but they want to emphasize that in a non-violent measure, anything with violent could potentially be subsequent to arrest as well. So they also said that, and talking about different things as the city welcomes as President Trump arrives here in New York City. You can see it here on Live Now from Fox. Coming down from West Palm Beach International Airport to New York City and LaGuardia Airport there in Queens, New York, one of the main hubs, the Big Apple, the biggest city in the United States, as he will be arraigned and booked on Tuesday afternoon.
Imagine uploading your image.
So that's kind of what we've been seeing from all the mainstream media outlets, is exactly that kind of coverage. This is the kind of moment, too, that as it's being captured will remain part of American history forever. It's one of those moments, I think, when people will, I don't know if it's as significant as, say, the shuttle explosion or JFK assassination, not on that scale.
With the words Trump, his name,
but people will remember
at the tarmac in LaGuardia Airport. Of course, LaGuardia about 10 miles away from Trump Tower. Secret Service in control of all the movements of the former president. And at tomorrow's arraignment, Secret Service will not leave his side while he is processed with fingerprints and a mugshot. It's unclear if the mugshot will be released right away. Of course, the attorneys for Trump have argued there's no reason to release, as everyone knows what Trump looks like, as he's not a flight risk. Of course, the flight now from Palm Beach, from Mar-a-Lago, his residence in Florida, this some 2-hour flight culminating as he will land here momentarily at LaGuardia Airport, as he will spend the night in New York City at Trump Tower as planned, and is expected to be arraigned and booked here after this indictment from a Manhattan grand jury late last week.
Stand by.
As you can see, wheels down for former President Trump in LaGuardia Airport as we follow this major story here on Live Now from Fox. Of course, he will get in that motorcade that we saw on the ground just a little bit ago and travel to Trump Tower, where he'll spend the night before being arraigned on Tuesday. Of course, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for sticking with us as we do this live, raw, and unfiltered here on Live Now from Fox. Trump now arriving in New York and amid tight security ahead of this surrender following this indictment. The former president boarded his private plane, of course, expected to be booked, arraigned in the nation's largest city, bolstered security, and warned political agitators that it's, quote, not a playground for your misplaced anger. Of course, the former president and his supporters, plenty of them, were on the ground in Palm Beach at his residence, outside of his residence. We talked with Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary on the ground there, talking about the similarities in the amount of supporters that were there when the FBI did raid Mar-a-Lago, searching for those classified documents. Certainly a lot of loyal followers of the former president on the ground in Florida and potentially some more on the ground in New York City. We're also getting other pictures right now. I want to change the shot up just a little bit as we're getting a ground shot from the concourse as the Trump flame there on the ground. Of course, it won't go to a jetway or anything like that, as they will just have the motorcade there on the tarmac to take him to Trump Tower alongside all of those Secret Service members. We heard from the mayor of New York talking about security protocols put in place around this unprecedented, this historic moment on this arraignment, talking about security protocols and all the things that will be happening there. Of course, we heard from them. They said their authorities are warning that people need to make sure protests are nonviolent, make sure that they warn the possession of a firearm or a weapon in certain areas of the city, including near a courthouse or a federal building, is a crime, regardless of the permit there. You also heard the quote that you'll hear over and over again today from Mayor Adams, that he said, quote, "While there may be some rabble-rousers thinking that coming to our city tomorrow, our message is clear and simple. Control yourselves." Of course, New York is our home, not a playground for your misplaced anger. We are the safest large city in America because we respect the rule of law in New York City. Of course, Trump Tower was open on Monday, but authorities were planning on closing nearby streets as Trump came and went. And additional security is also in the works. They've taken steps to close and secure the courthouse floor where the former president is set to appear for the arraignment on Tuesday. Of course, we have multiple pictures here on Live Now from Fox as the former president, will take the motorcade some 10 miles to Trump Tower as he awaits this arraignment and booking. Of course, this is not a lot of information as of yet on the charges, anywhere from between 20 and 34 criminal charges in this very secretive grand jury in the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg there. We saw him on Thursday leave the office as well, sending out several statements as there is quite a lot of chatter from both sides on this. Of course, we have not heard from President Biden, said he had no comment on Trump, this coming as he was leaving the White House on Friday. So former President Trump wheels down in LaGuardia right now as they await to take the motorcade to Trump Tower.
So that's Fox. I want to take you over and show you what CBS is doing. Now the tone is a little bit different. We're going to pick up Trump as he comes down the stairs of his private jet. And I'll show you what I mean about the difference in the tone. Listen to the way they talk about him and the way they make reference to, oh, he's not pumping his fist and he's not celebrating, or, you know, it's as though he was arriving at a campaign rally, but he's on the tarmac of an airport with only his security detail with him. Like, who's he going to pump his fist to? That's not what he's there for. But just take note of that as they do this. Hang on a second. Here we go.
If she would make this, roughly 24-hour trip back to New York. And we should also note that with Donald Trump's planning
what we're about to witness here
this evening, this is a very fast turnaround. He is being brought back.
And there, I believe we are actually, sorry, Errol, I think we're seeing the president, the former president, Donald Trump, now disembarking from the plane. Again, this is a wide shot, but that looks to be absolutely Donald Trump actually walking down now. Notably, there are no waves, no crowd to greet him. So a different type of scenario than the former president is accustomed to.
A more solemn one, 3:44 in the east. He has now gotten into his vehicle. And Errol, I'm sure you're going to see this motorcade pass right by or behind you on their way to Trump Tower.
And I'll just tell you this, what was noteworthy to me from watching Donald Trump exit the aircraft, and no, there are no kind of supporters there around him, there was no fist pump. His kind of trademark act when he exits his aircraft is kind of, you know, defiantly pump his fist in the air as a champion. He seemed here just to kind of quickly get off the aircraft and head straight into
What
that
else would you
vehicle.
do?
Everyone else's luggage all being pulled together, and we will watch the former president drive out just a short space behind me as he makes his way to Trump Tower. But this is certainly a sobering moment in so many ways. I'm just looking closely at who may be exiting the aircraft as well. I have some
Must be a former
thoughts
First
on who that
Lady
might
Melania
be, but I
Trump.
don't want
I'm not
to.
sure that it is, though.
No, it's
I'm
not.
not sure that
It might be
is.
unusual
Might
if she's
be.
walking the opposite direction.
Right.
So I
To a
would,
different
I would
vehicle.
hesitate from making any guesses.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right. We're watching.
So, Errol, you stay right
We're
there.
watching this
Stay
from
on
so
top of
far
it. We'll
away.
give you a second to report it out. Meanwhile, we're going to pop back over to Finn Gomez to get his take. I imagine, Finn, you have been watching all of this as well. Errol made a point about that trademark fist bump we saw as the former president departed from West Palm. He at least gave one wave out. Here, coming off of the plane, there were no waves. There was nothing sort of congratulatory or celebratory in his movement from the plane.
And there's no supporters because this is the tarmac of an airport, which nobody has access to. So certainly, you know, the kind of place where he would have that kind of a rallying or campaign tone.
At least they have one person who has a little bit
do you
of
think the former president is
level
going to try
head.
and strike while he is on the ground here, Finn?
Well, I think that, you know, I think it's, you know, the point about the raised fist pump and all that. And I think Lydia has, you know, makes a great point that he really only has that interaction when he's at a rally or has supporters around him. We will likely see many fist pumps, if you will, tomorrow night at Mar-a-Lago when he returns back for those remarks that he's going to give. You know, those landing, though, I did spot some of his senior advisors, including Stephen Chung, his communications director, Margot Martin, one of his communication staff, and Chris LaSavita, who's also essentially his co-manager along with Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles is also traveling with him. But one point I also want to just make out, guys, is that, you know, as the former president is landing to face, you know, and getting ready to face the processing and the arraignment that he has to face tomorrow. You know, there's one split screen our colleague Ed O'Keefe points out that is something that the White House wants, and the current
White House, yes.
Current White House is to show that as he was arriving, President Biden was in Minnesota touting his legislative accomplishments, while Trump was landing in New York to face his indictment, and that is something that just politically has been something that has resonated, I think, throughout the political world. And as we are, fully into this 2024 race, even though we're still expecting others to jump into the race later this year. But I think it's important to note that there was some reporting that Ed O'Keefe and I both had that we reported today that, the White House and sources close to the White House say that his political operation, which was looking at April as a potential launch date for his reelect, has now been shifted, if you will, to later this year, even as late as June or July in the summer. Why? In part because of this. In part because of this attention that the former president is getting. In part because the former president, who's leading most national polls, is also fighting and squabbling with his closest, his nearest rival, who hasn't even jumped in the race yet. That's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. So what you're seeing is this contrast between the former president and the current president, and it's something this current White House very much wants.
And Finn, we want to pop back over to Errol as we see the president's motorcade starting to move where he is at LaGuardia. Errol, your take.
We're watching President Trump's motorcade just make its way to the exit behind where I'm standing. Behind me, what they've done here at LaGuardia is they've now held traffic to make sure that none of the public can get through. I'm just moving myself, so you may hear some shuffling as we make our way
And
to a
Errol,
place where you can see it. But this is where the journey begins.
Is this as big as it gets? I mean, just from this aerial shot, we just see a handful, 3, maybe 9 vehicles or so. What does it look like in terms of the rest of the vehicles that perhaps are being used to keep the roads clear and safe?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, at the front of this line, you're seeing NYPD vehicles. Then you see Secret Service SUVs, and that is followed by some other emergency vehicles, including an ambulance, an FDNY ambulance, just making sure that every resource is available for any former president. This is the type of security detail that is afforded to all of them. And we understand that as they make their way to New York, they're going to have to enter what we all know as the BQE, the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, a very busy highway through this, the largest city in the country. I don't believe they have closed any of it yet, but we have our choppers above us at this moment, and you'll watch this footage as the president makes his way from a very busy airport through a major expressway and on his way to one of the most congested parts of the biggest city of the country, in East Midtown.
And we see actually
that exit is directly behind
that shot,
us.
right? Yeah. There you are. I can see it's very small. That place where you're located at Marine Air Terminal. And the motorcade now passing right behind you. You and Errol have both served time as White House correspondents. We've been in motorcades with President Trump. What's notable to me as I'm watching this is that every other time we've been in one of those, there has been a press van there with the president following his motions, and this time that's absent.
I think what's really important not to lose sight of is, of course, we're looking at something that looks very presidential because every former president has a Secret Service for their safety, but this is, at the end of the day, another citizen heading tomorrow to an arraignment to face criminal charges, and in a historic way, absolutely somebody who is a former president of the United States who was indicted. That has never happened before. So important not to lose sight of what is happening here. Somebody who is going to be in court tomorrow, photographed, fingerprinted, booked, possibly not handcuffed, but it is important that he's heading out there to surrender himself, accused, at least according to CBS News reporting, of multiple charges, including a felony for falsifying business records in the first degree. Errol Barnett is in New York. Finn Gomez is in West Palm Beach. Thank you both so much for your detailed reporting from the ground in Florida and New York.
So that's CBS. And that's them picking it up as he's leaving the airport. Let's pick up the coverage now as the motorcade winds its way. Let's go live right now to Trump Tower just to show you what's going on there. So that's the exterior of Trump Tower, where Trump is going to stay tonight. Live. So there is some question as to whether the judge will allow cameras in or not for the trial. And that's controversial. Question is, do cameras change things? And I would argue that they do. They change the way people behave when they're in court. Let's take a look at the motorcade as it arrives in New York at Trump Tower. And here we go. So they obviously picked up a few vehicles along the way. And we have more. Hang on. This is him actually arriving at Trump Tower, where he will be spending the evening.
There he is. Yes. What? I am. Yes, I am. Is that police officer blocking? Not anymore. No, they moved. Police officers all over the desk. There he is. Yes. What? I am. Yes, I am. There he is. There he is. Got him. Got him. Got him. Got him. Got him. Go. He's out.
And that's the kind of day it has been in New York, with Trump arriving at Trump Tower. He'll spend the night in Trump Tower, and then tomorrow he will be arraigned. It probably won't take very long, 5, maybe 10 minutes. They will fingerprint him. I guess they'll take a mug shot. I don't know if they will release it. My expectation is they probably will. Those things always seem to find their way out into the public domain. So look for that. That is exactly what his political opponents want. They want to see that mugshot out there everywhere. They want that image ingrained in people's minds. They also want the cameras in the courtroom because they want to show him in that negative light. Trump's lawyers arguing against having cameras present in the courtroom. As I say, it's been an ongoing debate, especially in Canada, where cameras are not allowed into courtrooms. There are many arguments for and against. I personally would prefer to have cameras in the courts because I think it provides more transparency, but there is no question having cameras in courtrooms does change the way people behave. You tend to get more grandstanding, more drama. The witnesses and the lawyers both play to the camera more as they try to score points. I don't know. It's even just a psychological thing, but there is absolute evidence to support that people do behave differently when cameras are present, when they know that there is a larger audience taking in what they are presenting. And in the case of Trump, it's all political. The whole thing is political from front to back, from start to finish. And having cameras in the courtroom, well, double-edged sword. It shows Trump as a victim, but it also shows him with that negative stigma of criminality, or the alleged criminality sort of smeared over top of it. So they're hoping to hurt his overall image, the image that people have embedded in their minds, right? But overall, I don't think that this ultimately will hurt him. I think this probably will end up helping him. And here's some coverage of the news conference that was held by local officials and local politicians ahead of Trump's arrival.
Increased police presence on public transportation. What type of things going in?
Well, as you know, as we've talked about since October, we've surged a number of officers into the transit system. So we expect to have a healthy complement of officers in the transit system tomorrow to facilitate travel.
Hayes with CBS News. Mayor Adams, this question is for you. Good to see you again. Always. So, you're a former police officer yourself. I'm sure in the past you were deployed to, not the same, similar incidents. Now as mayor, what concerns you the most as far as
This is Eric Adams, New York City mayor.
Well, again, as you indicated, serving in the department, I really have a lack of concern. I know how well the New York City Police Department is able to pivot and shift based on the circumstances that they are facing. And we are prepared. The police commissioner gave me a briefing. She understands that this is a unique situation, and the New York City Police Department is fully prepared with the coordination that Deputy Mayor Bank is doing with our other law enforcement entities. I have no concern at all around this.
Is it specifically about, sorry, one quick follow-up. Is it specifically about politicians? You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene or the former president stirring things up?
Well, people stir stuff up all the time, but if you are prepared, you don't have to get prepared, and we are prepared. And the ability to shift the resources where they are needed, I think, is extremely unique to this police department. We can manage several different things at one time in this department, and that's what we're doing. The police commissioner laid out a full plan with her executive team, and she's going to execute that plan based on the needs.
Mayor, I'm over here. What do you make of the spectacle of this next 24 hours? The former president letting all of his supporters know when he's wheels up from Florida, when he's landing in LaGuardia, basically putting New York at center stage once again as something of an unprecedented spectacle from a legal standpoint. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I'm not in control of that. I view this entire moment that we are in right now to one day be in the Museum of the City of New York. And I think this is another chapter in this experience, and that this administration is going to show how we manage not only national problems, but global problems, as well as local problems. And we'll be prepared for whatever needs to be done. We built a team, we got the right team, and New York is going to see once again the professionalism that this police commissioner has displayed and showed to her troops.
Thank you all.
Okay.
So there's all of that. Anyway, slice it. I don't think it's good for the country. It results in more political polarization. It is extremely negative. It's such a dangerous precedent. And now that they've gone down this road, I don't think there is any turning back. I think it probably will help Trump more than it will hurt him. I don't think these charges will stick. I think in the end, he just walks away stronger than ever. And the Democrats should be very, very careful about all of this. And don't be surprised if this comes back to haunt them. If Republicans turn around and start doing exactly the same thing to Democrats. That's why it is not good for the country. It's not helpful. It's a huge distraction in a lot of ways when the country should really be dealing with much more serious issues. But it isn't, because they're busy dealing with this. The time, the money, the resources, the human capital that is being expended on all of this. What a colossal waste. All over politics, they're weaponizing the justice system. But we've seen that throughout Trump's presidency and beyond. They started coming after him hard as soon as he came down that escalator and declared his candidacy, and then went on to defeat his rivals to claim the nomination within the Republican Party, to become the candidate, to then go on and vanquish Hillary Clinton and become the president, to win that election. All the while, Russia, 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 collusion, 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 impeach, impeach, impeach. It was just nonstop, and it's still nonstop. It continues even now. This is entirely political. If he was not running for office, I seriously doubt that any of this would be going on. that in itself should result in some sort of dismissal, although that is not grounds or justification for the dismissal of the charges. But honestly, if common sense were to prevail, that's exactly what would happen, and we would move on to more important things. I'm not the only one who kind of thinks in those terms. I think anyone who's sort of rational mind at this point has that sort of mindset. And I don't normally run material like this from the Epic Times, but I'm going to tonight, if I can find the clip that I had queued up. Maybe let me take a brief break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to get that clip for you, okay? Because I think it does offer up pretty good perspective on this. Don't go away. I'll be right back right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
And this is Joshua Phillip of the Epic Times. I really like his work. Level-headed guy. And this is what he had to say about Trump's pending arraignment.
I'm saying that even if Trump is innocent, essentially, that it's good he's arrested and good he's standing trial. Like, this is the logic that they're going through. And that logic that innocent or not, it's good he's arrested, innocent or not, hey, great. And people warning who are still, I think, rational and not purely partisan, even on the left, people are saying this is actually really damaging to the country, this type of thinking. You're really seeing this boil to the surface now. And in some maybe twisted way, this is, I mean, honestly going to help Trump, I think, but because it's justifying, it's validating what he's been warning about. It's showing in clear terms exactly what he's been saying is happening. A message which I think a lot of people would have found very hard to digest were it not for this. We'll go deep into this today, folks. So that said, those of you Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, we will jump over exclusively to Epoch TV after about 25 minutes, so stick around for that. Let's talk about the first story, though, the gag order against Trump. I want to emphasize this has not yet happened. This is purely based on analysis currently. But you do have Trump's team concerned they may do this. You have people on the left saying they're probably going to do it. And it's going to come down to the judge in the case, a judge who Trump at least accuses of being deeply politically motivated because he went after one of the Trump's associates previous to this. Business Insider says this. It says a gag order for Donald Trump is extremely likely once he's before a judge, legal experts say. Keep in mind this is technically a left-wing media, right? It says former President Donald Trump can't seem to stop talking about his indictment. But once he's arraigned, it's extremely likely that he'll have to, a former senior staffer with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office told Insider. His freedom to rant on Truth Social and say what he wants about his case at rallies will likely change once he surrenders and appears in a Manhattan courthouse, according to Duncan Levin, who is also a former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice. Manhattan's acting Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan, who is expected to arraign Trump on Tuesday, is likely to put conditions on his release. And that's most likely when this judge will issue a gag order restricting Trump from discussing the case, Levin said. Keep in mind that Justice Merchan is the one that Trump accuses of being politically motivated. Trump has been calling out the judge directly, which, normally a judge would be very unhappy if you did that. If you ever face trial, you probably don't want to criticize the judge. I'm just saying, Trump's not that kind of guy. He has no issue, it seems, criticizing the judge, going after the judge, and the judge has the power to basically slap a gag on his mouth, is what it looks like. That being said, though, of course, this is also what you would expect. I mean, from Trump's standpoint, he is being targeted for arrest in a crime that's pretty much there's no precedent with any of this. They're putting together new forms of crimes to go after Trump, elevating a misdemeanor to a felony, ignoring statutes of limitations, bypassing basic laws around even the difference between federal and state law, which again, there's some real legal complications in terms of how A.G. Bragg even did this. The fact A.G. Bragg has a track record of doing the opposite, of actually lowering charges, unless, of course, you're defending yourself. There was a man, for example, who defended himself after being shot and killed the individual who shot him after a scuffle and is now facing charges. Things like this have happened a few times in New York. Meanwhile, you have rapists going free on the streets. You have drug dealers, people committing assault, and so on, going free on the streets. And so, D.A. Bragg's track record is basically that he punishes good people and he lets, frankly, evil people run free. This is the track record he has. And so, given this, do you just remain silent? This is, I think, the issue Trump is facing. Do you just go quietly into the night, so to speak? Do you allow them to interfere with your political campaign? Do you allow them to interfere in the basic practice of legal protections? Do you allow them to? Would you let a DA, a random DA, interfere with the elections? Is what it's being brought up to. And so, Trump, facing the situation, of course, from his side, is looking at this and saying, I cannot be quiet. He's going to be calling them out every single step of the way. And we'll see what that means, of course, when it comes time to face the judge, and if the judge decides to slap him with a gag order. It says here that if Trump violates it by speaking about the litigation outside the courtroom, he could face consequences, punishment for criminal contempt, which is what you would be charged with if you were to do that. Under New York law, is a fine not exceeding $1,000, which for Trump is nothing, or jail for up to 30 days, or both. Briefly on this, Trump. Now, do you think Trump would continue speaking if just meant getting fined $1,000? I think Trump would pay $1,000 a minute if he had to. If he had to make a statement like this, $1,000 fine is not going to shut him up. $1,000 fine would not shut many people up. I think a lot of people, if they believed the case was serious enough, would take $1,000 slap on the face and continue speaking their mind. The 30 days in jail is a different story, of course, but at the same time, 30 days in jail could benefit Trump, and it would probably look really bad on the judge and on New York City law and on the Democrats as a whole. It would ironically probably benefit Trump, and you also deal with the issue that Trump, under protections of the president, has Secret Service protection, and so jailing him would be difficult, if not impossible, and they would have to really do a lot of they'd have to jump through a lot of legal hoops to imprison Trump. And would they want to blow that, round, so to speak? Would they want to waste that shot, so to speak, just to hit him with contempt? I don't think they would, personally. I don't think they would have to. I don't think they would want to overturn basically, the precedent, the federal law that a president has to have protection from the Secret Service in order to put him in prison for $1,000 fine. Meaning, I think Trump has the upper hand here. Even though they're talking about their ability to do it, I think he can violate it and probably just get $1,000 fine, and it won't mean anything. Although you're going to be hearing a lot of chatter about it. That's my personal take on that, at least. Here's a quote though from Levin, talking to Business Insider. He says, "I think it's not only possible, but it's extremely likely there will be a gag order in the case." And Levin said that he's known for representing clients including Harvey Weinstein and Anna Sorokin. He said gag orders are very common in criminal cases, particularly in cases where there is an enormous amount of pretrial publicity like this one. Further, and he states, if there is a gag order, Levine said, Trump will be very limited in what he's able to say, even if there may be proxies who speak for him. The court has the ability to set rules for his conduct while he's most likely to be out on bail, pending proceedings. And he said, quote, this is a criminal case now, so the rules have changed, and the rules are no longer in his purview to make. He is a criminal defendant, we see hundreds of thousands of criminal defendants across the country every day who have a lot of rights stripped away from them, and he is now one of them. These proceedings are going to change his life. Now, let's talk about Trump's nature on this. There was a meme going around for a while, and I know that now in New York, you can actually be imprisoned for spreading memes. I'll go into this later. One of the individuals who criticized Hillary Clinton, the 2016 political campaigns, who made a meme about Hillary Clinton, has actually been found guilty of criminal charges for interfering in elections in New York. And so if you want to know what you can be charged with in New York, well, rape is apparently something you get let free on. Assault, battery, robbery, people get set free on. But spreading memes will get you charged in New York. But regardless of this, I'll talk about a meme. There was a meme going around for a while of, it's Trump and he's sitting in an interview with one of these leftist journalists. The individual hands him Trump hands him a paper, and it shows the paper, and it's a tic-tac-toe grid, right? And Trump in the meme had drawn an additional row and put a little circle there and drew a line, and he won. And of course, that was the joke, that Trump basically creates new rules and then beats them at the game they think they're playing. And this is often how he does things. I mean, jokes aside. And you can agree with it or disagree with it, but this is just how Trump operates. They'll often present him with options 1 or 2. They say pick 1 or pick 2. Choose which way you want to go, and Trump will come out and say 3. And he'll come out with something they didn't anticipate. He'll take the kind of the window of the discussion. Oh, there's the meme right there. They found the meme. See, that this is how Trump wins. Oftentimes, it's in ways that some people might disagree with. It's a joke, but it's an accurate joke. He basically does things outside the boundaries that they've established. The question they're presenting with him in this is, okay, Trump, you're going to be hit with a gag order probably. Do you remain silent and agree and follow the rules and live by our rules and stay within our little boundaries? No talking about this, no benefiting from it politically. This is a criminal case. You can't talk about it. I know you want to make it benefit your campaign, but this is the case and these are the boundaries. Do you think Trump is going to abide by that? Those are the 2 rules he's presented with. Abide by it or don't. Knowing Trump, he's going to violate it. They're probably going to hit him with it because they have the ability to. But knowing Trump, he's going to violate it. And then he's going to raise the issue of, what are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me? You going to throw me in jail? Well, guess what? I have Secret Service protection. What are you going to do about that? You're going to overturn Secret Service protection and violate federal law and elevate this to a federal crime? That way I can challenge you legally in federal court or, in a higher court and bring this up on a higher level. He's bringing in additional issues and additional legal challenges that I don't think they're ready to face, in other words. And by doing so, exposing the extra legal manner in which this case is being run. To an extent, it would be a bad idea, in my opinion, for them to try to put this, of course, gag order on him for that reason alone. That it will, first of all, make them look bad, and second of all, he's not going to follow it anyway, and by not following it, is actually going to probably use it against them. That's the very likely case as I see it, at least. Folks, before we go further, I want to talk about how Trump is actually using all of this politically. This is becoming a political issue, no matter which side of the aisle you're on. Before we go deeper into that, though, folks, we do have a sponsor today. Today's episode is brought.
And that is Joshua Phillip. What I do want to do is also go to get a sample of what Ron Paul had to say today about this. on the Liberty Report. Here we are. A moment in history that we will all remember, a day that we will all remember. And here's reaction from Ron Paul.
A subject nobody ever has heard about. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
They're trying to put him in prison.
Yeah.
And he's fighting them off. And well, one of our favorite attorney and you know, the professors in colleges and all this, we don't think much, most of them. But Jonathan, we do. And matter of fact, he was one of our early guests when we were just starting the Liberty Report or the Liberty Luncheons.
Yeah.
He came over, but now he's a famous person.
See him on TV.
Yeah. So, but he once again wrote another article, and he's much more active. He was. He's still very academic. He's probably the most academic one that does the political talks on the show as a lawyer. But there's a few there. But you know, for a long time when he came to our office, you know, it wasn't like I'm a Republican. He didn't use the word Republican or libertarian or anything. But we knew he was sound in his thinking. So that's why we like to look at what he has to say. And of course, the big deal is tomorrow, the indictments have occurred, but what are they going to do? They're going to arraign them. And some people think, what do the Democrats do? Don't they know any better? And it is such an outrage. But for me, the first thing I thought about, and I mentioned it to you, Daniel, is that my reflection is because I've been really fascinated. And I believe a lot of it is true. I think there's been a coup in this country that nobody pays any attention to. And the country's been taken over by, you know, people that aren't constitutionalists. I don't even know where they come from. They're not strictly Republicans and Democrats. It's sort of if you're looking at the news, I know what I do. I know you wouldn't waste your time watching the news, but I watch the news, and immediately when you turn on a station, he's a Democrat. So you know exactly what he's going to say. Yeah. Oh, he's a Republican. You know what they're going to say. So you're not getting news. You're just getting propaganda. And so often the real news is the deep state. A lot of people know about that and who declares the wars, you know, and how they get away with it and how the military-industrial complex works. So there's a group of people, and there's been a little bit of that along, but I think in the recent 50 years or so, there's been a total disintegration of the republic. I don't think we live in a country that was supposed to function like a republic. And if you have doubts about what I say, just look at a couple quotes from Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, no
that'll convince you. And she's just not a woman off the street.
Yeah,
she was the leader of the Congress, and she was the one that was in charge of the police on January 6th. So you know where she's coming from. But anyway, tomorrow is a big day, and most people know that the prosecutor, the local judge from Manhattan has taken a misdemeanor and turned it into law. And the controversy there, everybody's turned it down. They think, and even the Democrats think, hey, this might backfire on us. Yeah. So, but it's interesting. But nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow either. You know, and Jonathan mentions in this thing, he said, just because you take something and multiply it by 34 doesn't make it stronger. So I'm sure you took a look at this.
Yeah, it's fascinating, you know, and I'll just going to break some news. A little birdie flew over from your house to my house and said you're actually working on a little mini book about the coup in America. So I'm sure our fans are looking forward to that coming out in a while. No pressure. But it's fascinating, you know, and Turley's a great guy. But the thing about Turley that makes him so credible, and we've said it so many times, he's no fan of Trump. And like us, he's been very critical. I mean, we're critical of many things that Trump did when he was president. He made some incredibly boneheaded decisions and hired some really ridiculous people. Nevertheless, as someone who is not a huge fan of Trump, he's able to talk about this prosecution, I think, in a more objective way. And in fact, when we get a chance, we can put this article up because we both read it and we were both, you know, taken in by Jonathan Turley's arguments, he calls it very simple. The Trump indictment, making history in the worst possible way. And this is the DA is Bragg, and apparently his assistant is the one who's really driving this. But put this next one up, because here's a clip from it, which is interesting. And I think he makes a good point here. It is still hard to believe that Bragg would primarily proceed on such a basis. There have been no other crimes discussed over months. We will have to wait to read the indictments. We do know, as a checkered history leading to this moment, the Justice Department itself declined to prosecute the federal election claim against Trump. There was ample reason to decline. So they tried. We know you've talked so often about the politicization of the Justice Department. So if even the Justice Department says that's a hot potato, I don't want to grab on that. And you have this goofy guy, this Soros-backed guy, who comes out and says, "Well, I'll take that hot potato," and it's crazy. I mean, it's all about apparently some money that was paid to a woman to quiet her down, I guess, about something, and I don't know the details. But he turns it into this massive election fraud, sort of 34 counts against him. I saw some funny memes over the weekend of Bill Clinton making a funny face with Paula Jones because apparently he paid this woman a lot of money so that she was shut up. So there's a precedent. So when you start indicting and arresting former presidents for things that they did, it's going to be a slippery slope.
So much of it.
Let's move over and pick up Dinesh D'Souza. I also a huge fan of Dinesh D'Souza. Also, great journalist. And here are his thoughts.
Feeling from me, geez, what is the point of this? Well, it's not that they expect me to break and run. I surrendered voluntarily. So the point of it is the humiliation. Well. That is the point of it, to make you feel like you're a prisoner, that you're a captive. And notice that this is being done before you're convicted of anything. Number two, you're fingerprinted. And again, it's the indignity of it. You can't say to them, "Hey, listen, you already have my fingerprints. I got fingerprints that I've taken on multiple occasions. I'll submit my fingerprints. You're welcome to put them in a database." But no, their idea is we have to fingerprint you. That's the idea. And number three, a mugshot. And Debbie was saying right before the podcast, if I were the authorities, I wouldn't release Trump's mugshot. Now, Trump may want his mugshot released. We don't know. But a mugshot is going to be taken. It's kind of funny because all over social media for the past several years, people like, Dinesh, you're a criminal, and they post a mugshot. The mugshot that they post is not my mugshot. In fact, it's a mugshot that I took myself for one of our movies. Was it Hillary's America? So, and we took other shots basically with me and Debbie posing and smiling with the Department of Justice paraphernalia. But in any event, it has come to this. Here's Trump with a recent statement. He says, "I will be leaving Mar-a-Lago on Monday, today at 12 noon, heading to Trump Tower. On Tuesday morning, I will be going to, believe it or not, the courthouse. America was not supposed to be this way." And it's hard to disagree with him. This is, at some sense, a very sad, it's really a tragedy. But at a different level, it is a wake-up call. It is an indication that the left is not going to stop. If you ever thought it's like America, live and let live, America, you can do your thing, I'll do my thing. No, this is sort of like your neighbor who decides that you are going to do it his way. And if not, he will bring you down to heel. He's going to jump the fence. His dogs are going to come into your yard. He's going to administer sex education to your children. If you resist, he's going to come into your house and take away your guns. None of this is really fanciful anymore. This is not like wild speculation. This is stuff that the left has shown that they are very willing to do and are looking for opportunities to do and are looking for occasions like COVID and so on to generate the public fear that allows them to be able to do it. Now, I'll be talking about this all week, and I just want to focus today. By the way, Trump says that he's going to make a statement tomorrow, Tuesday, at Mar-a-Lago. Debbie and I got an invitation to go to Mar-a-Lago. We are not going to be able to go, well, because of you. We're here doing the podcast, so we're not going to be able to attend. But there is some question about what Trump is going to be able to say. Why? Because there are some news reports that the New York authorities might go to the judge, who, by the way, is a left-winger, and say to the judge, please impose a gag order on Trump. And the effect of a gag order would be that Trump would be prevented, well, by the way, with the potential of going to jail for 30 days if he doesn't obey, of not speaking about the case. This is one of the ways, by the way, that the prosecution and very often prosecution-friendly judges silence the defendant while the prosecution is leaking to the media, putting out false stories, or putting out its side of the story, if you will, while on the other hand, Trump, who, by the way, is in the process of running for president, is on this critical matter forced into complete silence.
Precisely. And that is what we will be watching for tomorrow when Trump is arraigned. What will happen with that gag order, and will that actually shut him up? Will they actually put him behind bars if he defies that? In the Canadian justice system, publication bans are something of a routine at the early stages of the legal process. When you go to court, before things actually go to trial, it's almost routine now for judges to impose publication bans. It makes it very difficult to even cover courts in Canada until something actually goes to trial. That's why, generally speaking, as these things make their way, as any kind of legal matter makes its way through the courts, the reporting you get is John Smith showed up at the courthouse today for another court appearance. He'll be back in court on Thursday. It's all superficial, even with all the convoy stuff and those guys going to court and those fellows with the weapons charges against them who remain in jail, the Coots folks, Coots, Alberta, which was going on during the Freedom Convoy just over a year ago. You don't hear much in terms of details of that case at this point because there's much that you can't say. Even during the the arraignments and other court appearances, you can't really reveal the evidence at this point. You have to wait for it to actually go to trial before you get the actual details, the real information. So we'll see what happens with Trump tomorrow. Very interesting scenario. Yeah, the $1,000 fine for contempt for breaking the gag order, that would be nothing. But 30 days in jail, that would be something else. And talk about unprecedented, throwing a former president in jail because he wants to talk about unprecedented charges leveled against him. Wow. What a crazy, crazy world we're living in right now. And talk about a slippery slope. It's already starting. Here's Trump's own social media platform. Talk about creating an extra box for the tic-tac-toe game. They ban him off Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. He just makes his own social media platform, creates his own Truth Social. And tonight, what's going on over there? What's being said? Well, other media outlets, DC Inquirer saying, lock Bragg up. Alvin Bragg could face up to 5 years in prison as Trump indictment begins to backfire. So you see, already, here we go. This is why it's not healthy for the country to be going through this process. So tonight, you see, the Republicans are already getting ready to throw it right back at the Democrats and the left, who have targeted Trump clearly for political reasons, taking him to court. Says here, far-left District Attorney Alvin Bragg could face up to 5 years in prison if he is responsible for leaking 45th president and leading 2024 president candidate Donald Trump's frivolous. And we'll bring the actual article up here for you from the DC Inquirer. Frivolous indictment. Leaking grand jury testimony is a Class E felony under New York state law and carries a prison sentence between 1 and 5 years. And then there's a quotation here from the law offices of Julie Rendelman. A Class E felony charge is considered more serious than a misdemeanor charge and as such carries a potentially longer jail sentence. While a Class A misdemeanor in New York carries a sentence of up to 364 days, a Class E felony can result in a sentence of between 1 year and 5 years. And lawyer Alan Dershowitz, in an op-ed for the New York Sun this past Friday said, quote, "It is likely that a serious felony has been committed right under District Attorney Alvin Bragg's nose, and he is not investigating it. Under New York law, it is a felony to leak confidential grand jury information, such as whether the jurors voted to indict." So they're already looking at going after Bragg and using whatever tools they have at their disposal and whatever evidence and whatever mistakes he might make in order to hold him legally accountable and hit back. More public resources being eaten up, used up in this political fight. Wow. What a terrible state of affairs. What a terrible state the United States is in. What a terrible state the West is in right now. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll move on to other news of the day, including the death, the killing of a Russian blogger. Russia is saying it was an act of terrorism. Be right back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
So before we get to the death of that Russian blogger, journalist, I wanted to report on this. There is a court battle going on, just started. I know that they did have the Emergencies Act inquiry, right? But a national, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association is in court right now, started today. I think it's probably going to last about 3 days. And they told the judge that they were in front of today that the federal government has not spelled out clear, proper legal justification for its use of the Emergencies Act last year in response to the Freedom Convoy that took place in Ottawa and at various border points, including Coutts, Alberta, which we just spoke about a few moments ago. So the Canadian Civil Liberties Association is among the groups and individuals that is in court to argue that Ottawa lacked sound statutory grounds to invoke the emergency measures. The government, on the other hand, is standing firm, saying the measures taken to deal with the emergency situation, as they refer to it, were targeted, proportional, time-limited, and compliant with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Indeed, I would argue that it suspended all Canadians' rights and freedoms. It is the modern equivalent of the War Measures Act. The Public Order Emergency Commission, that inquiry that took place, well, that was a mandatory review process. That has to happen anytime the Emergencies Act is invoked. And Justice Rouleau, who oversaw that process, found the government did meet the threshold for using the law, but in the same breath said that someone else sitting in his position could easily have reached the opposite conclusion. As I think many on the freedom side, our side, if you will, because I'm all about freedom, would argue that he did not meet that threshold, that the situation did not meet that threshold. I think there were things that did concern the government, things that may have appeared to be an existential threat to government, but whether those threats really were at the level that they were truly a threat, I think they were background threats. But what you saw on the ground was the bouncy castles and the hugging and the huge crowd of Canadians who were just fed up, tired, and demanding that the medical mandates be dropped. That is essentially what was happening there, as you all know. So now there are legal arguments being made for and against, and this is a 3-day hearing, and it's being overseen by Justice Richard Mosley, who intends to rule at a later date on this case. So in a way, this is almost more important than the Emergencies Act inquiry itself because it's actually in court, and a decision could actually have serious legal consequences, where the Emergencies Act inquiry was really more in alignment with something like a medical coroner's inquest. It was a post-mortem examination, if you will, of the process. And the result of that was a report from Justice Rouleau and a series of recommendations, which are not binding on the government, meaning they do not have to act on any of it. And the ultimate objective is to see, one, if the government acted appropriately, and also to come up with recommendations that would allow the government to act more efficiently or to do things better or avoid mistakes that might have been made during the use of the Emergencies Act in the future. So that's really what the inquiry was for. So this is an actual legal case that's looking at whether the government was justified in using the Emergencies Act. The protests did not, as the Emergencies Act requires, create, quote, a threat to the security of Canada within the meaning of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act, nor was there a national emergency within the meaning of the Emergencies Law, the Civil Liberties Association is arguing in its written submission to the court. It goes on and says the act does not permit the government to proclaim an emergency based on nebulous or strained claims about economic instability and international trade, a general sense of unrest, or foreign donations to a cause. Even the presence of a small number of dangerous individuals in specific locations, while a proper priority for law enforcement, could not justify a nationwide emergency, and I would absolutely agree with that. The federal government, on the other hand, is arguing that the Emergencies Act requirement of a, quote, threat to the security of Canada cannot be interpreted exclusively by reference to this phrase's meaning in the context of the CSIS Act. So it's going back and forth. The federal court hearing includes others who filed actions contesting use of the emergency measures, the Canadian Constitution Foundation, Canada Frontline Nurses, and Kristen Nagel, and individuals Jeremiah Jost, Edward Cornell, Vincent Gerkes, and Harold Ristow. The government is arguing federal officials believed on reasonable grounds that a public order emergency did exist and necessitated special temporary measures. So the people who are in court, these organizations, these individuals as well, are asking the court to use hindsight to determine that use of the Emergencies Act was unnecessary. The Attorney General's submission says, as they oppose this assertion. And the government is saying that this process, this is not what is required in these judicial reviews. The government says the court's role is not to step into the shoes of the decision makers, but rather to determine if the decision was reasonable in the context in which it was made. So we will be following this over the next couple of days, and we will bring you up to date to let you know how it all plays out. Now, the Prime Minister today, Justin Trudeau in Canada, saying that orderly immigration, an orderly immigration system is needed. And he is making this statement today after 8 migrants died trying to cross the St. Lawrence Seaway to get into the United States, apparently illegally. So there were 2 young children, toddlers, who lost their lives in that incident as well in the Mohawk territory of Akwesasne last week. Last month, Canada negotiated a deal with the United States to turn away asylum seekers at unofficial border crossings, like Roxham Road, which has just been shut down. That was a place where, I guess, thousands of migrants were crossing into Canada by using a loophole in the long-standing Safe Third Country Agreement. But after Joe Biden's visit to Canada last week, that loophole has been closed. So this deal that was made with the U.S., between the U.S. and Canada, means that people will be turned away from the border no matter where they try to cross. The aim of that is to have people make their asylum claim in the first country they land in, whether it be Canada or the United States. So migrant advocates have been warning that the new rules would push people to take even greater risks as they try to cross the border to go to the country of their choosing, like using human smugglers and moving to border crossings that are even more remote. So last week, as we just told you, the bodies of 8 people, including 2 children, were pulled from the St. Lawrence River. It appears as though they were trying to make it from Canada into the United States by boat. Justin Trudeau is calling the incident a tragedy and says that a more orderly immigration system is needed. I have a clip of Justin Trudeau referring to all of this tonight. And let's go to that now. This was him at another event, but was asked about this, and this was his response today.
That also protects the most vulnerable. That's what we'll continue to do.
Follow up. I was watching Tout le monde en parle last night, like many people here, I'm sure. You said in French, Canada continues to be an open and welcoming country, but that we favor people and privilégiés, people who come in a regular way. What do you mean by this, by favor?
Oh, one of the great strengths that Canada has is that we can continue to be a place that is positive about immigration. People around this country understand that welcoming people to our communities grows our economy, adds depth and richness to our lives, and builds a stronger future for us all. But a big part of that is predicated on people having confidence that we have a strong immigration system, that it's rigorously applied, that it actually is fair and responsible. And that's why we're continuing to move forward. We will continue to do more and more to welcome in people from around the world. But we're going to make sure that it's done in the right ways, appropriately, so people aren't putting themselves at risk by trying to cross borders illegally, where they're not giving money to criminals to help them come to a different country, but we're taking in people in a way that maximizes their chances of success. Ce que j'ai dit hier soir, c'est la vérité. On est extrêmement.
Justin Trudeau today referring to or responding to the tragedy on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Eight people losing their lives trying to cross into the U.S. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith striking back after a leaked audio recording, a conversation she had with Pastor Artur Pawlowski. And the media reported on that. But she is going to file legal action over misinformation. So Smith saying that the allegations of her interference with the province's justice system since she took office, she's calling them inaccurate, misleading, and likely defamatory. And she says legal action will be taken soon. Now, when I reported on this, I did say that from what I heard in that recording, I don't think that any of that rose to the level that it was sort of let me rephrase this. The CBC broke the story. They have this recording of her talking to this pastor who was arrested under the pandemic rules multiple times. And after Artur Pawlowski is looking for amnesty for her to get the charges dropped. And in the conversation, she basically tells him, sorry, it doesn't really quite work that way. Even though she clearly campaigned to become the leader of the United Conservative Party of Alberta, and as a result, the new premier of the province, she was campaigning on a platform that included a promise to do something about these rules that resulted in all these charges against people, including these pastors, including Pastor Artur Pawlowski. But she hasn't been able to do that. And she clearly told him in the conversation that it isn't something that she could just step in and influence. She, in my view, and I don't necessarily need to run the entire audio clip here again tonight, but this was not the gotcha moment that the CBC thinks they have. Not by a long shot. I don't think the premier did a thing wrong. Nothing. There was nothing in that conversation that suggested she was trying to actually influence in any inappropriate way the justice system or the case involving Artur Pawlowski. He was clearly asking her to do something about it, and she was being diplomatic, but made it pretty clear that she couldn't just step in and provide amnesty, that the process had to play out. And she said she was frustrated by it. She did admit that she'd been speaking to the Crown Attorney's office, I think is the way that it is referred to. But, even speaking to the Crown, speaking to the lawyers involved, she also made it clear that it was only appropriate for her to ask certain questions, and she only asked those questions. And they're saying that because she went back multiple times to ask those questions at various times, that they were, I think, alluding to the idea that maybe she was trying to influence the system unduly and acting inappropriately, but I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think she's on firm ground. I don't think she's done anything inappropriate. And she was seeking the advice of her justice minister and other legal professionals all the way along, so that she would remain within the bounds of the law, so that she didn't get outside the guardrails and get herself into the weeds. And I don't think she did. The bigger question is who leaked that recording as she heads into an election. That's clearly what this was about. It was an attempted political hit job. And I don't think it worked. Now I think maybe there could be a bit of I think this could backfire, I guess is what my point is. It could definitely backfire. Let's go to a clip of Danielle Smith. And for our US viewers, this is actually pretty significant because I know that maybe you don't follow much in the way of politics in Canada, but Danielle Smith in many ways is breaking new ground in Canada, unprecedented ground in terms of the way she's trying to assert provincial sovereignty on the national stage, forcing the federal government in Canada to recognize that provinces are supposed to be equal partners. In short, I would say that Danielle Smith is probably the most aggressive of all the politicians in the country at trying to assert true conservative ideology politically within her jurisdiction, which is the province of Alberta. And as she has been doing this, that mindset, that attitude has been spreading to other provinces and to some degree, even other states south of the border. Let me bring up Danielle Smith's clip here so that you can understand what I'm talking about. Right here.
For COVID prosecution have contacted. There's been a great deal of inaccurate, misleading, and likely defamatory reporting about my discussions with justice officials regarding COVID prosecutions. I have been clear that neither I nor anyone within my staff have contacted any Crown prosecutors, as has been alleged. Indeed, Alberta's Crown Prosecution Service has confirmed this to be true. To continue saying or suggesting otherwise is malicious, as this matter is now likely to be subject of legal defamation proceedings. I will not be commenting about it further as per the advice of counsel on the matter. I'd be happy to take your questions.
Go ahead, Alana.
Just want to clarify, so you're not going to take questions on something, but it's actually questions about something super similar. You're saying this might go before the courts, this could be legal action, but that's the exact same thing that happened on these phone calls. There was a man who was 3 weeks away from a criminal trial, and you decided to speak with him on the phone. So I wonder if you can explain why you thought that was appropriate.
As I mentioned, this is likely to be the subject of defamation proceedings. I have the ability to seek advice from my justice officials. It's actually part of their job. The advice that I received from my justice officials was that there were several court actions that were taking place, and until they were resolved before the court, no further action could be taken. I follow this advice.
So why are you on a phone call with them?
As I mentioned, the advice that I received from my justice officials was that there were matters that were before the courts, and until those were resolved, there could be no further action, and I took that advice.
But is it appropriate to be on a phone call with them?
As I mentioned, that I do seek a lot of input from a lot of people on a lot of things, and I seek advice from my justice minister. And when I asked his advice, he said that there were matters that were before the court that needed to be resolved, and there could be no further action, and I took his advice.
Did you seek
advice from your justice officials prior to speaking with Artur Pawlowski, charged with criminal mischief and breach of the Criminal Infrastructure Defense Act?
I have sought my advice from my justice officials on several matters, and the
that was
advice that
specifically I'm
the
asking,
advice that
sorry.
they have given is that there are matters that need to be resolved before the courts. Nothing more can be done until those court cases are decided, and I've taken that advice.
But did you take that advice
Alana,
prior to the phone call?
Alana, you've had 3 questions, and there's a whole room. Just because you don't like the answer she's giving doesn't
Well, there
mean
is
she's
no
not
answer.
giving an
We've
answer.
had one
There is no
answer.
answer.
We've had one answer. 5
So
questions.
we will go to the next. Do you have a follow-up, Marksoff?
I'd like to ask Minister Sani a question, please.
Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Journalism, blogging, it's a dangerous game these days, especially if you're discussing anything dealing with the Russia-Ukraine, Russia-NATO, Russia-USA war conflict. Blogger Vladimir Tatarsky killed in an attack that the Russians are calling a terrorist act. And now Daria Trapova has been arrested in connection with that. BBC reporting and other media outlets tonight, and this is the newest development, is this arrest, that Russian investigators have detained a woman in their hunt for the killers of pro-war blogger Vladimir Tatarsky in Sunday's blast at a St. Petersburg cafe. So what's happened here is Tatarsky was speaking at a cafe. He is pro-Russian. And this woman that you're about to see here in this video delivers like a sculpture, a bust of Tatarsky to the cafe. And it blows up while he's engaged in his event, and he's killed. So in this video, as it says here, released by authorities, most likely recorded under duress, Daria Trapova is heard admitting she handed over a statuette that later blew up. So there's video of her talking about this. And the BBC saying that the video recorded by authorities was likely done under duress, suggesting that maybe she was forced to admit this. And I don't know. But the 26-year-old, it says here, does not say she knew there would be an explosion, nor does she admit any further role. So she delivered it, but doesn't say that she knew it was loaded with explosives. Investigators said they had evidence the attack was organized from Ukraine. However, Kiev officials said it was a case of Russian infighting. More than 30 people were wounded in the bombing in Russia's second city. Tatarsky real name Maxime Fomin, aged 40, had been attending a patriotic meeting with supporters in the cafe as a guest speaker late on Sunday afternoon. So a video circulating on social media shows a young woman in a brown coat apparently entering the cafe with a cardboard box. Images showed the box being placed on a table in the cafe before the woman sits down. Another video shows a statue being handed to Tatarsky. In a brief excerpt from the interrogation released by Russian authorities, Daria Tropova appeared under duress, according to this report, as she sighed repeatedly. When her interrogator asks if she knew why she was detained, she replied, "I would say for being at the scene of Vladlen Tatarsky's murder. I brought the statuette there, which blew up." Asked who gave it to her, she responded, "Can I tell you later, please?" I guess off camera. Russia's anti-terrorism committee is calling this a terror attack, and they say it was organized by Ukrainian special services with people cooperating with opposition leader Alexei Navalny. So here's the video. I'm gonna roll this. Just to be aware that there is an explosion here. You may find that somewhat alarming. This social media video being reposted tonight by the BBC.
Какой-то красивый парень. Это что, я? Давай, ладно ты. Вот. Он ставит.
There's the bust.
Золотой.
And as you can see, there is an explosion inside the building. The aftermath. And we do have a petition to protect journalists targeted by governments, journalists who are on the kill list in Ukraine. And you can sign that petition at maverickpetitions.com. Because as we've reported here on many occasions, there is an actual list of journalists, thousands of names long, artists, political activists, and journalists and the Ukrainian government has done absolutely nothing to have it removed from the internet. And it's essentially a kill list. And some of the journalists on that list have been killed. And as you've just seen, another one targeted here. And this time right inside Russia. It's absolutely an escalation. And if you're inclined to sign that petition, I'm not sure if I have the graphic available here. Maybe I'll make a new one for you. maverickpetitions.com. You can also go to our website, which is maybe the easier way. Just go to mavericknews.ca, click on petitions. You'll find the petition there, and you can add your signature to it if you agree with what is written on that petition. And once we get enough signatures on it, we will submit that to the appropriate authorities to have governments in Canada and the United States apply pressure on the Ukrainian regime so that they stop targeting journalists When they target journalists in this way, it's an attempt to stifle free speech. As you know, we are all about free speech here, freedom of expression, free media. And that is exactly the kind of thing that is used to deter journalists from doing their jobs. And it is my firm belief that that is inappropriate. So if you agree with that, please consider going to sign that petition tonight. Let's take another quick break, and when we come back, I'm not sure what we have up next, but we will have more news right after this.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, no! To bugs!
Chris Sky, well-known Canadian political figure now, well-known in particular throughout the freedom movement in Canada. Now a Toronto mayoral candidate. He was on this program last week and in Toronto today, kicking off his mayoral campaign, April 3rd. And true to his word, he's making his mark. Had a rally in Toronto. Had pretty good turnout. Here's the way it was going down. This was Greg Wycliffe shooting this stuff. Here we go.
For very good reason. But you know who they do trust? They trust us because we've been there through thick and thin, no matter what, doing the right thing every step of the way. And we're going to continue to do that when we take the reins of this city as mayor.
Yeah.
We have the most fiscally responsible administration that we have ever seen. The size and scope of government will shrink, and the size and scope of your freedom and financial will increase.
Yeah.
There's going to be something for everyone in our government. And when we reshape Toronto in the way it needs to be, we are going to set the example for the rest of Canada and the United States and further to follow us. Because who's going to follow these people? They've been going in the wrong direction for decades, and we see the results. Less freedom, less financial resources, and just more crime. It's the same in virtually every part of Canada. And we're going to stop it here. We're going to change it here. And we're going to start a revolution, first of thought and then of action across the entire world. Toronto is not just a big city in Canada. Toronto is a symbol for all of North America. And we're going to take that symbol and we're going to polish it up real nice. And everybody's going to want to be in Toronto. You know how many people have been calling me every day and saying, if you win, I'm coming back. We're going to get all the good people that Toronto lost, and we're going to continue to bring in more good people to Toronto.
When you win, not if. When.
Thank you. I don't want to sound too overconfident, but you're right. We should already start talking as if I'm the mayor so we can manifest it into reality. And that's what
And there's Chris Sky kicking off his campaign in Toronto. It's a by-election because normally we wouldn't be having a mayoral election or a municipal election in Ontario, Canada, and certainly not in Toronto, except that the sitting mayor, John Tory, resigned because of a scandal involving an affair that he had with a staffer. So that left a vacancy. Chris Sky is one of many candidates running. We've mentioned the other candidates on this program before. The mainstream media has been trying to ignore him, ignore his candidacy up until today. But I think it's all been formalized now. And so it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for them to ignore him. And as I said the other night, I think he actually has a pretty good chance because the vote is going to be split so much. The left wing vote will be split so much among all the other candidates that he'll pick up everything else and he'll have a real shot at this. The thing is, I'm not sure how the issues or his recognition will play out. I think he's very charismatic. He does have good name recognition already, so he does have a real shot at it. But I always try to gauge where people's minds are at on issues and what they're being exposed to. And over the weekend, as I was with my family, I was asking other family members who are not really that dialed into the news that much, what kind of things they were being exposed to on social media. And I was asking them questions about some of the key issues that we speak about here virtually every night and that are prominent on other freedom-oriented live streams, blogs, issues explored by vloggers. And there were a few of the key issues that my relatives were not even aware of, let alone being exposed to on a daily basis. So that might be a bit of an issue for Chris Sky because some of the issues that his base are focused on are not issues that people, I think, in other areas of the political spectrum, I don't think that they're being exposed to it because of the way social media works. It's very easy to lose your perspective on the issues, on reality even, because you're bombarded within your bubble with information that social media companies want to feed you over and over and over again, while other people who are in other social media bubbles are getting none of that. I can't quite gauge at this point how that's all going to impact what's going on with his campaign, but it could be a factor. There could be, I could be giving more weight to his campaign than maybe is warranted a little bit because I'm thinking that other people maybe are aware of some of these issues that he's campaigning on, while actually, as he's campaigning and talking about some of these issues, based on my experience over the weekend, they might be looking at him saying, what is he even talking about? I don't even know what that is. And that sometimes is when people start to think about things in terms of conspiracies or conspiracy theories, because they just haven't heard, they're not aware. If you're ignorant on an issue, it might just sound like it's a bunch of gobbledygook, right? You don't know what it is the person is talking about, or they even think that they're making it up. But he was kind of sticking to mainstream ideas and mainstream language in his speech there. And I think that's probably the right way to go. Plus, in his interview here, we were dealing with real issues, real Toronto issues, and he was well versed in them and had the answers to the questions that we were asking. So I was actually quite impressed that way. And if he is delivering information in that vein and that resonates with voters overall, again, I think he actually has a pretty good shot at actually winning that mayoral race in Toronto. A lot of people, even sort of close to the movement, have been saying to me, I don't think he can actually win, but I think he actually can. Just look at some of the other people that have been elected to office. When I interviewed Chris Sky, I have to give him huge credit. He was better versed on the issues than a lot of politicians that I have interviewed over the years who've actually been in power. And I'm talking about real issues, budget issues, infrastructure issues, social issues as they relate to Toronto, the local issues, the municipal issues. And if he wants to be the mayor, he needs to understand those things. And not only was he familiar with the issues, he also was familiar with the actual numbers as well. So I was actually very impressed with that. So again, hang on just a moment. I've got some video that I want to queue up and run for you, and I kind of want to get your opinion on it, actually. And you can comment on it in the chat here tonight. Maybe when we go to the phones, you can comment on it there too. But it's a video from China comparing China to the United States. And I'm just kind of curious to get your take on that. So don't go away. I'll have that for you when we come back.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so here's a video. I believe this guy's name is Mockingjay, if I'm not mistaken, but this was sent to me. And I'm gonna run it. And you can comment on it. I want to know what you think of this video.
Here's a Louis Vuitton store in China, and here's one in America. A jewelry store in China, now one in America. A supermarket in China. Now let's take a look at one in America. An Apple store in China and one in America. A Gucci store in China. And you know what I'm going to say? A Gucci store in America.
Okay, I ran it. Now you get to comment. When we come back, don't go away.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, phone lines are ready to go. Connect this way.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a maverick. Join us.
Okay, so before we get to the phones, a man has been taken into custody. Multiple people have been injured in downtown Calgary as a result of stabbings and an assault. At least 3 people stabbed, a 4th assaulted in an attempted robbery on Monday. This with a flurry of violence in downtown Calgary. First incident took place at the corner of 7th Avenue and 4th Street around 12:45 this afternoon. When someone was stabbed, the victim then transported to a hospital with a non-life-threatening injury. Then around 1:10 p.m. this afternoon, police arrested a man at the intersection of 8th Avenue Southeast and 4th Street following a confrontation with officers. And then police say at least 3 people were stabbed and another was assaulted while the man was trying to steal their purse in the area between 600 block of 5th Avenue Southwest and 400 block of 4th and 5th Avenue Southwest. The victims received a range of injuries, ranging from minor to serious. They're all in stable condition. Police are asking anyone that may have come into contact with the suspect during the time between 12:45 and 1:10 p.m. to contact them or to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477, 1-800-222-8477. Let me see if I have any photos here. There is a photo of a suspect, I believe, right here. So this man was taken into custody this afternoon, right there. And it's time to go to the phones. And here we go. Here's our first caller of the night, the man himself. I'll let him introduce himself.
You got them all, assault the man without a plan to master all disasters, the 101 Dalmatians, or you could go 101 WRIF. Hey, man, Leo Penhow coming to you live. I got a raise today, Rick. I got a $1 raise, baby. I got a $1 raise, so I'm happy.
Good for you.
Well, since you want to be my psychologist, expialidocious, we got the Rick Walker show going on, folks. We're going to backtrack a little bit. The guy stabbing up people down in Calgary, 7th Avenue. I think that's Electric Light area, if I do recall. Okay, that's the shopping district down in Calgary. Not a rundown area, very nice, upscale. Got to have money to shop down in that neck of the woods. Expect more of this, okay, as the, we'll call it a pandemic, and that's the drugs that are people are using, and especially fentanyl. Now, to come down from fentanyl, because I've helped a few people try and come off of fentanyl, to come down off of fentanyl, you dehydrate from the inside out, okay? And diarrhea is one of the symptoms. Now, if they don't have the fentanyl, they shit their pants. And they die slowly. You die. Okay, you just don't quit cold turkey. You got to come Suboxone or whatever they give you, okay, medically speaking. You're taking a chemical, plain and simple. Okay, so expect more of this, and as the government wants to legalize everything on the table, that being fentanyl, crystal meth, you name it, heroin, cocaine, it's not going to be for free, folks. These guys are still going to need their shit. So who's paying for it in the end? The poor citizens that are getting robbed and stabbed and beaten and murdered. So I'm not for it, and that's what the government's trying to sell, right? Especially in BC. I read in the paper the other day, the Toronto Sun, I think it was, about them wanting to legalize outright everything. And their legalization makes BC look like a joke.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be a lot of shit that's going to happen along the way. Okay, and like I said, a lot of good, innocent people, hardworking people, are going to be caught in the middle of the crossfire. Now, as for the antagonistic, we'll call it the antagonistic junkie out there, either you shit your pants and die or you rob people to get your fix. Simple. Expect a lot more of what's going on. As for that last video you showed prior to the Calgary one,
yeah,
China looks more civilized than the United States of America.
Yeah. So
interject, Rick.
So overall, do you think that video was fair? Was that selective editing? Was that an accurate representation? Fair, unfair?
I think it's fair and it's 100% accurate, because I'll tell you what, we know, you know, everybody knows, there's more cameras in China than there are people. Okay, so face recognition, they already have that. They had that for years, right? So they know you want to start shit in China. Okay, there's a cell for every one of you with a handful of rice in the corner waiting for you. Okay, they will lock you up. They'll do draconian things to you that are unheard of in North America. So that kind of keeps people at bay. Yeah, you're gonna have your mental illness in China. Don't get me wrong. You got 1.5 billion people or something like that over there.
Yeah,
you're gonna have mental illness there too. But the majority of the people are law-abiding because of that reason with the cameras.
Yep.
Okay, and their draconian measures, because they'll take you out back and shoot you. Okay, that's China. That's what China does, and we all know what China does, right?
Yeah.
So if America was going to do something like that, and let's say that these drug dealers, fentanyl dealers, crack dealers, meth dealers, and in North America, the police had the right to catch the dealers and put one in the back of their head and throw them in the Detroit River. Okay, you'd see dealing going down. I guarantee you, it would go down.
So you think that
in a heartbeat,
the heavy hand of enforcement or threat of enforcement is an effective deterrent in China? That's what you're saying.
100%, Rick. 100%. You've seen it. You know, we've all seen it over the years. Even protesting. Try and protest in China.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Yeah, they say they'll let you protest. They'll let you protest for only so long. As a protest gets bigger, they snuff it out. And we've seen how they snuff it out. Tiananmen Square with tanks running people over.
Yeah.
Canada, they snuff it out with horses. They run people over.
And you saw that white paper protest. Remember that? That was only a couple of months ago. They kind of snuffed that out too.
Right. They snuffed that out. You don't hear anything about it anymore, right? That's the whole problem with the whole system. You know, you could try and try. They always got an out, and they'll go as far as to people going missing to get their outs, right? You look at the people that have uprised and tried to uprise the right way, peacefully. You know, people go missing in this world today for that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
The government's heavy-handed, and it's not just our government. You know, it's the world governments. You know, our country's actually pretty good, even with the turd that's in there. And, you know, I know a lot of people watch this. Oh, no, listen, when people start going missing, okay, like they do down in Venezuela, they do in African countries, all over the world. Okay, look at Haiti. We're nowhere near that, and I hope we don't ever get to that. You know, Trudeau's days are numbered, folks. Plain and simple, they're numbered.
That's true.
I can't see him making the next election. So don't get so upset with it. Like a lot of people out there, oh, we got to have an uprising. We got to take them out. This and that. Don't even go that far.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'll tell you what's going to happen to you in the end. Okay, don't think for a second we don't have the cameras that China has. Okay, they have the spy satellites. They have it all, right? One phone call away is the Americans. And when something happens, believe me, they already know what's happening before it happens. It's wild. Okay, and through technology, and let it be the internet, the telephone, whatever, they're tracking everything everybody's saying. It's only a matter of time before they start tracking what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they want those chips in people's brains. Okay, so they can track what you're thinking before you do it. right? And they could snuff it out. So, you know, I'm not buying what everybody's saying, overthrow this, overthrow that. And I hear a lot of it even today. It's like Trudeau, if I'm not going to say it on here, but you know where I'm going with it, how far people want to go with Trudeau. Okay. It's not going to go that far. And I hope it don't go that far, because as shitty as he is, okay, nobody needs to go down that road. Okay. Because this is what happens. You're going to, if they can lock people up for innocent protesting and seize bank accounts, okay, all they got to say is that you're the big T. I'm not going to say the word. You know where I'm going. You're part of the big T movement. Okay, and if you're part of that big T movement, you're fucked. Okay, they'll lock you up and fucking throw away the key. And don't think that they can't in this country, because they do. And we just seen it with Tamara Lynch and all them. You know, misdemeanor charge of fucking protesting, no bail. She spent 30-something days in jail, no bail. Give me a break.
Yeah.
You know, when you got drug dealers and pimps and players and hustlers getting bail the next day for shootings and whatever else are the games that they're playing, right, in this country, they're getting bail the next day. Now, for something as malicious as protesting, wow, you know, that's a misdemeanor, and they'll lock you up. So under that new Bill C-18, there's going to come more laws and legislations, especially with the big T word that I'm talking about. So, you know, anybody that discusses that in their social platforms and their chats about joining a group, beware. You heard it from the mouth here. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And as for Trump, all smoke and mirrors, buddy, all smoke and mirrors. I liked when CBS said, look, there's nobody down on the tarmac greeting Mr. Trump. Wait a second, CBS. You weren't even on the tarmac. Now, there's a reason why you weren't on the tarmac, because nobody was allowed on the tarmac.
That's right.
Or it'd be another J6.
Yes.
Look at these people. They raided the, where was it? LaGuardia? Is that where he flew into?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, that's
JFK?
exactly right. LaGuardia. Yeah.
LaGuardia, okay? You just can't run up on a fucking tarmac, okay? That's federal property, by the way. That's no different from the J6, okay? And that's an airport. You just can't run up, thousands of you, and, oh, yeah, we're greeting them, this and that. No. That's how you get clipped off very fast, okay? And so they weren't allowing people there, plain and simple, right? And CBS could play it off all they want.
It was ridiculous, actually, that commentary, because it's like, and did you notice he wasn't fist pumping and waving? Well, who's he going to fist pump to and wave to? These are his. There's no. It's not a rally. You know?
Exactly.
They wanted to make it look like he was depressed or something, so he wasn't pumping his fist because, you know, he's so sad because he's getting charged. No, it would be like me just getting off the plane and starting to wave to random people for no reason. Like, yeah, it was just stupid.
The media wasn't even there. Who are you fist pumping to?
Exactly.
You know, the only one did it look like Stormy Daniels got off the plane with him?
Yeah, well, they were trying to say that was Melania.
Maybe he was fist pumping her. Maybe he was fist pumping her at the 30,000 Mile High Club.
Oh, well, I'm not going to comment on that. Oh,
no, you know where I'm going with it. You won't get shut down for that one. But by the way, you know what? This is the 101st Dalmatians call, folks. Okay, you got it here from the mouth. Did my friend get back to you, Rick?
No, not yet. But I forwarded that email, and I'm hopeful that we get that all connected very soon. So thank you for trying to set that up, and I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah, and I'm sure the fans out there watching Maverick, we got a good show as long as it goes together here, because I talked to him for about 25 minutes, and after he watched the show with Chris Guy, and he wants to come on the show, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say who it is, but when you're on the list of, let's say, I think he was number 5 on the FBI's most wanted list, or the DEA's most wanted list. He was up there with, we can't say the word because you'll get banned. I can spell it though. CARTEL, those people, okay, for what he did was sort of like, what's her name? Tamara Lynch, a misdemeanor charge, but he was on I think number 5 on the DEA's most wanted.
I wasn't aware of that, but that's
in America.
crazy. That's pretty crazy.
it's pretty crazy when you get to the story, and you know, it is what it is. I don't want to give the people watching too much, but you get this guy on the show, Rick, and it's going to be a fucking blockbuster, buddy.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Really hope that happens. Really,
For
really
sure.
hope that happens.
With all that being said, you get to your next caller. That's funny how I'm always first. I don't know if you're not running it that way. It's just
No,
the way
just
that
the
it
way,
is, folks.
the way it is. I should also tell you that on Friday we have a special show coming up. It's going to be like a how can I put it? It's going to be like a health and wellness conference, a special show especially for people who got the Kool-Aid.
You know what? Maybe you should bring me on there because I got the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And you know, out of fear, a lot of it was fear, by the way, by our governments. If you don't do this, you're going to die. And in the beginning, Rick, you want to see a government that scared everybody right across the board. Not everybody, but 99% of the frickin' population was scared.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, in the end, okay, by them saying you can't take vacations if you don't have the Kool-Aid, this and that, I ended up taking the vacation, or I ended up taking the Kool-Aid, but I didn't get the vacation.
Right.
Because they changed the rules and everything else, right? And it was just draconian, man. Draconian at the end of the day.
Well,
you
we
know,
have
health problems.
We have like
health
a holistic health professional who will be joining the conversation to provide advice for people on how they can detox or keep their health to try and minimize the effects of the Kool-Aid. So, and just overall health as well in the face of a growing toxicity within the environment. So that'll be an interesting show. And it's going to be, I think, a big day. So just making people aware of that. We got that set up today. So I'm looking forward to that show on Friday.
Well, my left shoulder's been hurting, okay, for the last 4 months. Now, I don't know if it's from that shit or from what, but it's been, you know, hurting really bad to the point where last night I started taking arthritis pills. And I got the best sleep of my life in the last 4 months was last night, right? So it might be arthritis. It might be from the Kool-Aid. Who knows, right?
Right.
I don't know. But my shoulder shouldn't be hurting. You know, I work it every day. And I'm not overworking it, but I work it every day, right? So it's not like it's limp. It works, right? So, but it's been hurting every day. So who knows? I can't wait for Friday.
Well, hang in there, my friend. And I look forward to getting that interview set up with you and our other good friend too. So thank you.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Thank you, Rick.
All right, take care. All right, let's move on to our next caller. Who do we have on the line next?
Hey, I missed your link, and I would greatly appreciate you to explain how to find that petition again. I cannot find it, and I would like to sign it.
Oh, okay, sure. You just go to our news site, actually. That's the easiest way. And there should be a tab or a, but maybe it's...
Sorry, I did look there. There's polls, but I don't see, I didn't see petition.
Maverick, that's the wrong site. Let me just check for you.
Maverick.ca?
Mavericknews.ca. Mavericknews.ca.
Okay. Mavericknews.ca.
Yeah, if you click on the news poll tab.
News, okay.
Okay.
Take poll and donate. I don't see a petition.
Maybe it's been taken down.
Darn. Okay. I'll get
it put back up in the next day or two.
Okay.
Or you know what? Maybe just check this one.
Or maybe before you reload the show, put the link in the info because you're talking about it. And people will be re-watching the show anyways or whatever, and they'll be able to just click on YouTube link, forward the link to sign it. It might be more effective that way.
Here it is right here. I've got the link. It's maverickpetitions.com. I'll put it up here on the banner, and I'll put it in the description for YouTube as well.
Maverick Petitions.
Yes.
.com. Okay. Here's hoping I get it because I'd like to sign.
It's actually .net, but .com will take you there. .com will take you there too.
Okay, it's thinking about it.
It'll
While
flip
that's
over
waiting
that.
to load.
It redirects.
Okay, I might. Yeah, it's not going there. So hopefully,
.com. It'll take you
or
there.
.net, it goes DNS could not be
Yeah,
found.
it has to be .com because then it
Okay.
redirects to a longer .net URL. So
Okay.
that's not right.
Well, hopefully that'll help your listeners too to find it as well, because
I'll
I
leave
think
it up
that's
there for a minute. Maverickpetitions.com, and then you can sign that petition.
Yeah, I think I'll share that around, and because I think that's an important one to sign.
Yes.
So I thank you very much, and I don't really have a lot to say today. I just can't get out of my mind the fact that Trudeau had to move out of his little mansion on the hill because of rodents. Makes me kind of wonder if he's storing all that food he's buying for $8,000 a month and storing it in the rafters and attracting them or something. I mean, it's just bizarre to me. I mean, how do you get that kind of a problem when you've got like that kind of wealth? I don't get it. But and as far as Trump waving or fist pumping, I think that was just utterly ridiculous, because I mean, Trudeau, he stands there and he stretches his arm high in the sky waving to thin air for the most part, other than his bodyguards and stuff. Like, there's never anyone and no one says anything about it but Trump.
Yeah.
Trump, honestly, he's like you said, he ain't going for a celebration or anything. It is a somber moment. You got to have some class, for the love of God. Like, what are they expecting?
Yeah.
Really?
So silly.
But it's just, nonsense, right? Really tragic about that bombing too. That's pretty, I'll probably remember that for a long time, because it just really brings it all home to a very real spot, right?
Yes.
Because we're safe in our homes. We do get stressed. We do get, worked up and stuff, but we're not the ones, like the reporters out there, trying to get us that very important information. We're not the ones putting our lives on the line that way.
Exactly.
Some, yes, might be in some ways risking things. Absolutely. There are people in our country that are risking their livelihoods and all kinds of things. And it's just as commendable. But I mean, nobody's at that kind of risk. And I think people need to sit back and think about that, because I think reporters have really been diminished especially over the last 5 years, their value and their worth, because of the being bought off bullshit business. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it clean here for you. But the credibility of the media has damaged so much for legitimate people who are passionately working in the media, trying to do that kind of work in a truly honest and ethical and very real way. And I think people need to really pay attention to a story like that, because that drives it home. And people really need to give the real reporters the respect they deserve. Honestly, and I don't think they do get the kind of respect they deserve, and that kind of stuff needs to be talked about more. And people need to lift, like one of my favorite sayings, we rise by lifting each other up, and I live by that. And I truly believe that in this big old mess that we've been living in, we have to support each other. And we have to give credit where it's due. And we have to bring attention to these kind of things to make it drive home the value that people like that bring to our world. I mean, there are reporters around the world doing this and no one's hearing about it. I mean, it's like, we're lucky if we even get the stories. We might get some of these I've seen tragic stories, and they were, reported on and videoed and everything quite a few years prior to me even getting to see it. That's tragic in itself, Yes, and it's really important stuff. But I mean, again, with the Bill C-11 and all this locking us in, we know what Trudeau's up to and why he's trying to do it. He's trying to hide. Him and Biden are so lockstep, it's unbelievable. That, I mean, it's like we are, Canada and U.S. are one country. Everything that's happening in our streets and is happening in their streets and vice versa. They even use some of the same ridiculous lingo when they give their announcements and stuff. It's utterly cringeworthy. I only hope at this point in time that, you know, maybe where Biden is residing, that his area that he's living in is being infested with rodents too, and he could sit on a pile of rodents licking his darn ice cream. I mean, you know, we're all just getting weary and tired of it all, right? You know, is anyone going to feel sorry for Trudeau because he's got a rodent-ridden home? I mean, I mean, he'd be lucky if he had my cat because he'd get them all. But you know, he doesn't deserve a beautiful creature like I have. But I mean, you know, it's just, yeah. I mean, things are just getting so bizarre. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I won't keep you. I just wanted to make sure I got that petition, and I'm going to share it around. And I think it's important to get other people to do that as well. So, and I hope you had a really great day off and a birthday celebration. You look a little more rested anyhow. And that's it.
Thank you very much for the call.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, who's up next?
Hi, Rick. It's Steve.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. You know, it was a pretty tough decision tonight. I was thinking, do I watch Rick or JT just got a new channel? You know, tough. It was really tough. Oh my goodness. I can't believe that he has a channel now. It's just bizarre to me.
I didn't know that he had a new channel. JT,
oh, of course, Rick. I mean, Bill C-11, now he's on YouTube. I wonder what's going on there. He's going to push you way to the bottom, and he's going to be right at the top.
Wow, there you go.
He has it all planned out. Rick Walker's a threat.
Yeah, do you think they'll ban his channel if he says anything wrong?
Well, believe it or not, actually, I had a little bit of time earlier today, and it was kind of news to me, but somebody was, there's been a whole bunch of complaints about his channel already. Apparently, people have been, I don't know how it works, but they're sending off complaints to YouTube saying that they've let a vile racist onto their channel or onto their platform, and somebody who competition in politics. And anyway, it was really funny. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was hilarious. All the complaints, they were pretty ingenious complaints. So, and they're all true. So, I mean, it was that much better.
Well, I'm gonna.
Are you looking it up?
I am trying to, but it actually doesn't come up in the search window for me. There's the government channel, but I'm not seeing his. I guess new.
Yeah, it's and he has 14,000 subscribers compared to how many does Polyev have? Like 140, I think.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau.
I mean, obviously he's trying to get Polyev, but it'll be curious where Polyev ends up in the rankings when Bill C-11 gets passed or whatever. Maybe he'll get pushed down and Trudeau will get to the top. So.
Yeah, well, there's the Justin Trudeau Prime Minister of Canada channel. Is that the channel you're referring to?
To be honest, I never looked.
Okay, I don't know. Well, anyway, that channel's been up for a while, but I'll check it out. I'll find out what's going on with it.
I just know if you go to anybody who, I don't know. Well, actually, on YouTube, Mr. Sunshine Boy, I saw it in the suggested videos. He had something about it, so he's Canadian. I'm sure you won't have any hard time if you just did a general search and you'll get Canadian content back of people talking about it.
Yeah, I did a search.
Like when I looked,
it didn't pop up, so it must not be that popular.
Yeah, well, interesting.
Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, actually, Chris Sky. It's already started. This goes without saying, but today, seeing as how today is day one, there was a couple of reporters. I caught the 6 o'clock headlines and on the TV, and I caught the end of the previous news show. So they were talking about the mayoral candidates at the end of the one show, and then at the start of the other show, that's what they started with. And so they had reporters there, and of course they didn't talk to Chris, and as you know, he was there. And both of these reporters ended with Chris Sky's name, and the one referred to the fringe candidate, Chris Sky, and then the other, the 6 o'clock guy, he said prominent anti-vaxxer, and there was another term he used to describe him as well. And I'm like right off the hop, you're kind of, well, I consider that slander. To call him an anti-vaxxer, I think that's slander, because I have yet to see him say anything about other vaccines or anything other than this is bad for you being the current one. So I see where this is going, but he's good with social media, and there is so many fringe people supporting him. I hope he can rally up enough in number to get him in, because I think we need it. I mean, he's not a guy I would want to spend the whole afternoon with. I think he might be abrasive at times, but I totally appreciate what he's doing and what he's done. And I would spend that afternoon with him just out of curiosity, because he means well and is doing well. And again, I agree with you. The more candidates in the field to steal votes from the non-fringe would be great. Just to spread those far and thin, and let's get Chris in there.
Yeah, so, you can see from this Toronto Star article that there's no picture of him. They have these other candidates, and they have their favorites, the ones they're deeming to be the front runners. So they'll try to.
Did I learn this?
Sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if I learned this from you. I know that they used to have to give equal time, but now I think if they mention some, they have to mention the rest. Does that hold true with mayoral?
All it
runs?
ever was is you're supposed to mention. You have to at least mention the names of the other candidates once you start reporting. And so I'm just going to skim this article to see if they do actually mention him in this article today. Mark Saunders, Mitzi Hunter, Mamalidi. Others running include former Toronto Sun columnist Anthony Fury, community activist Isabel Gamp, businessman Frank D'Angelo, former police officer Blake Acton, and conspiracy theorist Chris Sakochia, also known as Chris Sky.
No.
Does it
really say?
Yeah, conspiracy theorist is the way they.
Oh, I hope he has a big legal team.
And that's at the very end of the article. He's the last person mentioned, and in that way. And the other candidates vying for a spot include, what else do we have here? First out of the gate was former city councilor Rob Davis, former Davenport councilor Anna Baleo, Paul Ainsley, Shelley Carroll, Chris Moisey. I hope I'm pronouncing these names correctly. I honestly don't know who some of these people are. Councilors Brad Bradford, Josh Matlow. I think I probably have them all covered off now. Oh yeah, Mark Saunders, the former police chief, he's running. So I would think that he would have a shot too. Credible.
Apparently Ford has him.
Sorry, what's that?
Apparently Doug Ford. Apparently Doug Ford has an issue with him. Well, I don't know what it is, but apparently he doesn't favor I can't even think of his name, that former police chief. But
Mark
anyway,
Saunders,
so I don't know what the issue would be that Doug has with him, but I've heard there is. And just briefly, going back to Rob Ford for a second, I paid a lot of attention to Rob Ford. And And at first, I didn't think I was going to like him. But, you know, people have troubles. And in spite of his troubles, he did great things. He saved the city so much money. I mean, in the first year, what was it? $1.4 million in paper or something like that. And before that, he campaigned to give up $100,000 worth of perks that all the counselors got when he was a counselor. He said, I don't need all these perks. He says, I make good money doing this job. Yeah. I think all the counselors should give up this kind of thing. I don't know if you remember that, but he did a video where he went. Yeah.
Yeah, we've run the video on the show for you.
Yeah. So I really liked Rob Ford, and yet he had some troubles, and it only got compounded with the media. And well, as far as I'm concerned, the media is the one that put him in the grave in the long run. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I have a lot of maybe questions about his life, but I don't question his intent for the city. He loved that city as much as he loved himself, as near as I could tell, and he did whatever he could for it. And as far as I'm concerned, he died for his city. I really liked Rob Ford and appreciated that. So I just had to get that out.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling.
Anyway, I appreciate. Sorry, Rick?
No, I said I appreciate you calling. It's always a pleasure.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much.
Okay. Talk to you later. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And who do we have on the line here next? Hello, who's on the line?
Hello.
Hello, Pam.
No, yes, it's Dom Pam calling.
Hello.
Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, you're doing a lovely job as usual. Now, I just caught your show because I was out today running little errands. You know, we have to do that from time to time. And anyways, I just caught the end of your show, and I didn't see the part about rodents in the wonderful Mr. Trudeau's home. I can't believe it. But all I have to say is I've had the odd rodent in my home, but it's only when I've come back from vacation and didn't plug something off and just one and got it out to put it back outside. But you know, rodents generally, we went through a rat infestation in my strata unit, and they only generally populate homes when either no one is there and the home is vacant, or there's absolutely effing filth living within inside of it. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Well,
Filth, absolute filth.
We know that their attempts to control a significant rodent infestation of the Prime Minister's official residence left so many carcasses within the walls and basement that serious questions were raised about the home's air quality. In newly released documents obtained by the National Post via an access to information request, National Capital Commission staff detailed numerous serious safety concerns about the deteriorating condition of 24 Sussex Drive, prompting the decision last fall to close the home and relocate staff still working at the official residence. There is an important.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's even there anymore. But go on, please. I'm listening.
Yeah, so the home was completed in 1896. 24 Sussex Drive is a 35-room, 4-floor mansion that has served as the Prime Minister's official residence since 1951, when Louis Saint Laurent moved in. It was classified as a federal heritage building in 1986, and I don't know if it's legal for them to even remove those rodents, because having been in the walls so long, the carcasses are probably designated as historically significant heritage rodents. So you probably need a special permit from Environment and Climate Change Canada to even touch them, not to mention the Heritage Ministry.
Oh, good. Let them live there. Let them live there. Let them eat cake, so I say. Let them eat whatever. Let them crawl up on his little dinner parties that he holds there. And let them follow them. Oh, maybe he'll be like the Pied Piper, and they'll follow him wherever he goes.
Well, I think that's fairly typical Canadian style, right? Just, well, you know what? I think it's actually appropriate. It's appropriate to have a rodent infested home for JT.
I do too. I think that's just meant to be. It's just God's will, and I think it's all meant part and parcel to be that way. And he should just become accustomed and used to it, because I'm sure they're going to follow him everywhere he goes from now on, here on in. And if we all manifest that, who knows what might happen?
That's funny. That is funny.
Well, anyways, I just wanted to give some comical relief and say hello to lovely Sir Leo. I just adore him and listening to him. And I caught his call. That's when I joined on to your show, so I missed the part beforehand. But I'll have to go back and watch that, because I was just running out and about, you know.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you called tonight. It's been a good call.
Well, God bless you. God bless you, my dear. And to all those people who are wondering about things, just tell them to pray and to think positively, because positive energy is going to help us get through all of this.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on because Daryl wants to comment on the rodent problem too.
Oh, good. I can hardly wait. Take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
see ya.
Toodaloo.
Okay, go ahead. Let's talk rodents.
Hey there, partner. How's it going?
Great. What are you thinking?
Okay. I'm living out in Stanley, New Brunswick right now. And I moved here going across Canada for veterans and homeless, moving from Alberta. And the old home I have was built back in 1889, I believe, or 1891.
Yeah.
And with that, what I've found is if you have raccoons and or weasels or even squirrels, they will actually help get rid of the rodents.
Oh.
I've actually got some video of that, different parts, where they actually help get rid of them. So if we need to start hiring squirrels and raccoons and whatnot, but yeah, keep up the good work.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the call. See, my problem is I do have the occasional mouse around my place, and I have squirrels too, so they don't seem to be helping much. But maybe I'll have a talk with those squirrels.
Well, actually, the kicker, if you like a good mouse trap, it's called the Predator. And you don't need to put peanut butter and or whatever on. You can just put garlic juice on the trap itself, and that will actually attract the mice.
Oh. Okay. And it's called the Predator?
So,
Predator?
Predator, yes. It's actually quite an effective mouse trap. And I've disposed of quite a few, actually.
I made a mouse trap out of a pail and a tin can and a metal rod. Have you ever seen those?
Well, what you do is you take a 5-gallon pail, fill it half full of water.
Yep.
Put it on a 45-degree angle, and because the mice cannot negotiate the plastic, they can climb almost upside down like those secret squirrels, right? But what happens is they can't climb the plastic, and so once they don't see the water in the pail,
yeah,
they will actually take care of themselves that way. And it's quite effective and simple, and you're not spending money, unlike the old 1930s cartoons where they actually bring in these big special cages and they all trap them in there. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, actually, here's an example of sort of the thing that I built. I'll just run this little video here, and I made this exact sort of thing for the.
How did 5-gallon
five-gallon bucket mice trap? Super simple, super easy, and very effective. All the items you need is a 5-gallon bucket a clothes hanger, a metal clothes hanger, or a good thick wire, either or. Oh, a drill with a drill bit, a pair of pliers, some peanut butter, and a peanut butter jar, or something else that you could find that would work. So I just get my 5-gallon bucket.
Somebody should send this to Justin.
And I drill.
Hey,
hole.
my dog actually has the
Near
heart
the top.
of the shape of a heart on his paw.
Uh-huh.
On the right digit, and his name is D-Day. And coffee mugs will be available soon.
Okay.
And as an injured veteran, we've all had our struggles.
Yeah.
But the one thing about the bucket I'm watching right now,
yeah,
what mice do is they find any wire, whether it be a speaker wire or anything they can climb.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to prevent them from actually getting above whatever they're climbing. So if you have a shelf, what you do is you actually have a hole so you can actually run your speaker wires or your cables through. So they actually cannot go upside down. And that will actually help prevent them from getting into different things, even like your toaster.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't know that, but, but it's a lot of different things. But no, we got to keep Justin from going upside down. But he's already done that, right?
Yeah, here, I'll just fast forward a bit. You get the idea here with this mouse trap. You smear some peanut butter on there, then you put a little piece of wood there to act like like stairs, and then the mice climb up there, and then they get on that jar, and it turns, and then when they climb on there to get the peanut butter, it flips over, and they land down in the pail. And if there's water, they drown. Or if you're a real nice person, you don't put water in it. You just set them free someplace else, like in the neighbor's yard.
Well, actually, a neighbor tried that and that didn't work.
Uh-huh.
And but I totally understand the peanut butter aspect might actually stop the jar from turning.
I saw mine worked. I got a whole ton of mice in mine when I set mine up out in the back.
Oh, hey, we got to hook up sometime with conversations about different mouse traps, right?
Yeah, well, you build a better mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. And there you
Well,
go.
actually, I've actually got videos of squirrels actually coming in my gazebo.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, because, and this is comical reference, I'm not trying to drop names about a certain franchise store.
Mm-hmm.
But Costco has limited hot chocolate because it's only seasonal, right?
Okay.
And I left a big cup of hot chocolate and it froze outside. And I didn't realize that the squirrel actually likes hot chocolate.
Yeah.
So it could be branding. You never know. If we can actually get Justin involved with trying to get rid of mice, maybe we can have him sit in the bottom of the bucket with a cup of hot chocolate.
Well, you never know.
We can actually get rid of squirrels and mice.
Well, listen, Daryl, we're going to move on. Probably been on the mousetrap thing a little too long for most people, but it might be helpful. I made one of those things that works.
It's all humor, and you keep it going, okay?
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, Daryl. You have a good night.
Take care, buddy.
Great call all the way from New Brunswick tonight. And here's Dave. He's up next, and thank you for waiting so long. Dave, how are you tonight?
Good.
Good.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm okay. What's on your mind, sir?
Oh, I've been distracted since I've been listening. That's all interesting about Justin Trudeau's problem. I mean, really, who deserves it better than him? No, I was interested in what Leo was talking about. He's he's discussing people taking this Kool-Aid business.
Yeah.
And you're going to do a show on Friday, apparently?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I've been listening to people, and I'm trying not to say nothing. I mean, I didn't take it, and I never would from the beginning. I didn't believe in it, and I've been following your show. You were doing the. I don't know. Did it go on today?
No.
The citizens.
Yeah, no, it's not on again.
Firing?
The 13th is the next day when it resumes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. They did 3 days in Toronto, and now they've moved on. So it'll be the 13th is the next date.
It was a great thing. I'm so disappointed. That's what I wanted to tell you was I am so disappointed in the amount of people that are not following this. This is so important. They are doing such a great job, and you're doing such a great job. I'm so disappointed that our whole country is not paying attention. And I don't just blame it on the government for detouring us. People need to wake up and pay attention.
Yeah.
This is very important. What these people are doing with this citizens, what do we call it? Citizens
Inquiry.
Alliance?
It's an inquiry.
Inquiry.
National Citizens Inquiry.
Everybody in Canada should be listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable how much neglect they're getting. How much, I mean, you seem to be the only one covering it. I've done my research and I'm looking. Where is it? Nowhere.
Yeah.
The only place I can find it is with you. And then the other day, I'm watching you on YouTube. I mean, normally I watch on Facebook, but they cut you off right away.
Yep.
And then on YouTube, you got cut off. So I went to Rumble.
Yep.
And I'm watching it on Rumble.
Yeah.
Then I can't even find it.
On Rumble?
They're blocking us.
Oh,
yeah. Oh no, I found it on Rumble, but
yeah.
Why should I have to jump from this program to the other? Like, what's going on? These people are throwing up blockers every way. Oh,
I never thought I'd see the day in this country.
Rick, I mean, I know where you stand. I know what you're doing here, and that's why I support you. But I cannot understand how much resistance these people are putting up for free speech. This is it's incredible.
It is. It's a sad,
incredible.
sad time.
And I sympathize with you. I know where you're coming from, and you're fighting. You're fighting an uphill battle every day.
We all are, my friend. We all are.
I just want to tell you, I appreciate what you're doing, and I follow you. But shit, when they make it difficult to even follow you, that makes it really disturbing to me. I know they're screwing us over, but now I can't even listen to you. I have to go searching. Now I got to go to Rumble.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what the fuck's going on?
Well, sir,
anyway,
thank you for calling.
This thing with Leo called earlier.
Uh-huh.
You know, Leo's pretty sharp. I appreciate him. I know he's younger and he's kind of half crazy.
No, I think he's pretty stable. I think Leo's an okay.
No, he's pretty crazy. I knew Leo reminds me of myself when I was young, but no, he's a little wild. And I give him all the credit in the world. But he's sharp, and I appreciate him. And I'm glad you allow Leo to present himself the way he is. And I'm glad to have you present yourself and in your program. That's all I want to say. I have nothing to add. I have no answers. I have more questions than I do answers, but you guys provide a little bit of insight every day. So keep up the good work. That's all I got to say.
All right. Well, thank you. Take care, Dave. Talk to you
Thank
again
you.
soon.
Thank you, Rick. You take care now.
All right. Here's Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm okay. What's up? Go ahead.
Okay, for your last caller, what's going on? Basically, dude, they want you dead. You know, you're in the way. All right? The elites want you dead. We did what they wanted. We made all their stuff. They don't need us no more. So one way or another, they're going to get rid of us. But we got a real issue here in southern Manitoba and in southern Ontario, and it's coming. There was, not long ago, a toxic waste spillage, over 300,000 gallons of toxic waste. Might be from a nuclear plant. Not exactly sure. Then we just had another train derailment right around in the same area, which is very toxic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you still there? I can hear something. Hello? Hello? I don't know who's there. I can hear. Well, maybe we'll move on. Hello, who's on the line?
This is Rob, Rick. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Oh, working like a dog. I've been trying to pin you down all week. I've been keeping up with most of your topics on what's going on. I heard earlier it's comedy hour. Is it comedy hour at the Rick Maverick show tonight?
Well, we were talking about the mice and the walls at the Prime Minister's residence, where he has not been living, actually, because of all the repairs that are needed there. So the place is pretty run down, I guess.
So I'll just try to give you a break from. You look like a prize fighter to me in there, Rick. You know, just take a break, go to the corner, have some water, sit down for a second. You know. I had actually 3 topics that I wanted to touch on with you because I've been keeping up with what's been going on.
Yep.
You know, one was the topic of the chemical spill up in Ohio. And an earlier show, I discussed oil spillage and chemical spills. But one was, I'll keep this short, was if you realize how many motor vehicles on the highway just inside the United States?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How many motor vehicles are on the highways just inside the United States?
I don't know the number. I don't know.
It's 262 million approximately.
Okay.
Vehicles in operation. That's not counting semi-trucks, boats, and planes. And you know, you're a car guy, so I felt like maybe Rick can relate to this. If you take one of those little 1.5 inch exhaust pipes that comes out of a car, and just so people can get a perspective of the amount of inches, I took it back to 150 million cars just to make the math kind of simpler. But 150 million times 1.5 inches in diameter breathing is equivalent to approximately 33 superdomes in size of an exhaust pipe that we breathe every single day. That was just something that that was just something that was in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And then just to kind of give somebody an idea, I mean, I've always been about the people, and I want to just kind of just throw this out there, and I'll shut up and go away. My dad is my idol. That was something that helped create me. It brought me up in this world, and it made sense for. I mean, he's 80 years old, and just to break a few people's hearts on where we should be at, I compare my dad. This is how I am. I get a phone call from my dad. We have rental properties, Rick. And way over in another state, I'm not going to say which one, we had an older lady she had poor health. And it was asked to me 4.5, 5 years ago. Somebody asked me, says, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, let's just do this. It's a really nice home. It's in a college area. I said, I'll charge her $250 a month and she can take care of the utilities, which is astronomically cheap. My dad calls me today and yesterday, a matter of fact, and let me know. He says, you know, you're going to look at me kind of bad when I say this. And I say, what do you mean? He says, the lady that's lived in the house hasn't paid her rent for over almost 4.5 years, Rick. And he was embarrassed because it's what we do. And I told him, I said, well, I suspected that's probably what would have been your thinking on that. And my thinking on it was just to just leave it alone. That's how we were raised. We should all be that way. You know, if people need your help, you get your ass out there and you do what you got to. Sometimes in the world, Rick, you have to lose everything you have to understand what it is to have anything.
Sure.
And it's people like my dad that are my idol. You know, it really is. And then my last comedy relief on it is I'm from the South of the United States, the very deep South, the heart of Dixie. And I couldn't tell you how many people I see that have a Dixie flag. It's their flag. They can do as they want. But I can't tell you how many people have a Dixie flag in front of their house, and I'm nobody's fool. Some of that is backed with the racial thing. You know, it's because, one, they have a Trump sign in their front yard. But it's the obvious.
The clock's marching on. I need you to kind of just drill down, get right to the point, and give me a final comment because we're going to have to sign off.
Okay. Well, the final comment on that was all of the hatred that was put towards Abraham Lincoln inside this United States. All of them absolutely failed to recognize that Abraham Lincoln ran as a Republican, and he was a Union leader in the federal military. Oh, what happened? But it's so far off base to know that people, if you walk up to an average person with certain signs in their yard and you bring up Abraham Lincoln, it's a hatred. But to have Donald Trump running under the same party is backwards. It's just a backwards thing, you know. So I wish you luck with your show.
Okay.
You got all my support.
Thank you.
And it's like I see some things coming. You know, I think I mentioned it to you the last time we spoke on this Trump thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a Trump hater. I have nothing against Donald Trump, but they picked a person that was supposed to be pure and lead this country, and he's not as pure as everybody seems, you know. So I'm going to wait to see what's going to happen tomorrow. I think that some of those go into what I had mentioned. It goes into state laws, corporation laws between states and businesses have absolutely nothing to do with government. So How could a federal government indict somebody for something that was done inside of a state territory? It was a legality. So that's well. Anyways, I don't want to tie you up, but just remember that anytime I see somebody with 2 signs in their yard, I think, well, you must have voted for Abraham Lincoln, because it's the same thing going on with Donald Trump. You know, they assassinated Lincoln, and they're gunning for Trump. I don't think it looks very good. I think that this stuff should be settled behind closed doors, and I think that they should let the people be free. You know, they work for us. We don't work for them, Rick. But I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. And that does that. So I will tell you that it is now just after 9 p.m. That's going to wrap things up for tonight. I know that we had some other callers in the queue. I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to get to them tonight. But we have reached the end of our broadcast evening. So we will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have not liked, shared, and subscribed, please consider doing that. Really helps out the channel a lot. Please subscribe on Rumble. In fact, I think what we may be doing is doing a little bit more exclusive broadcasting over on the other platforms instead of just on YouTube, so that we can continue to build and help cultivate that success that we're experiencing on these other platforms. We're back over on Odyssey as well. We weren't broadcasting on there for a while, but I have reestablished our feed to Odyssey. So we're on there. We're on Rumble. Please like and share on Facebook. We do have a substantial audience over there as well. YouTube, we're still hanging in there, building every day, getting new subscribers. The numbers keep on building. So that's always good too. But I don't have a lot of faith that the YouTube thing is going to continue in the long term. So we're going to be addressing that in the weeks ahead. And don't forget that we do have that special broadcast Friday dealing with the people who got the jab, or maybe you're just interested in learning about holistic health and what you can do to keep yourself healthy in an increasingly toxic environment. So that'll be a big show. It'll be like a health conference of sorts, and you get to take part. So looking forward to that. Also tomorrow, big show, an important show lined up. It deals with the MK Ultra mind control experiments. There were people who were subjected to those experiments in Canada, and there is a class action lawsuit that is before the courts. And we have the daughter of one of the people who was a victim of those experiments in Canada. And she will be joining us on the program, or at least she's supposed to tomorrow night. I'm confident that that will happen. She will be talking to us about the lawsuit and the impact that those experiments had on her and her family. It's a really big story. It's very real, but it is so strange that a lot of people think it's some sort of a conspiracy theory. And that's extremely unfortunate, because the people who went through that, the people who are affected by that, all of those stakeholders, they really do need help. And they are deserving of compensation, in my opinion. The U.S. government is arguing that they deserve complete immunity for anything that happened in Canada, because the plaintiffs should really be filing their complaint in the United States. But I would suggest that that is not really fair or appropriate. And what they're going through right now is actually another message coming in. So yeah, that's not really appropriate. It's an interesting case, and we'll get into it all tomorrow night. Really looking forward to that interview. It'll help pull some people out of that rabbit hole and pull everyone into reality, to show that one of these stories that people think might not even be real is very real indeed. So join us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. right here on this same channel. And if you would like to support the channel, you can certainly do that at freedomreporters.com. That will take you straight to the donation page. Or, you can also donate in the super chats, which, we do get some super chats in there, and I appreciate all the support we have had. It helps pay the bills here and keeps us on the air. We can't do it without your support. So again, thank you everyone for joining me here on the program, spending your time here. It's an absolute privilege. And I will see everyone back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.